Oh, sorry, just kidding. Is that better?
Just making sure you guys are paying attention. Okay. Can you guys see that better? You guys will check yours from there. I guess we'll pop it back up on the other ones there. All right, so our next speakers are Ty and Karen from ARKAST.
Awesome. Thank you so much for allowing us to have some stage time and to talk to you guys today. A little bit of a different subject than we're used to the rest of the day. It will tie in by the end, but in the beginning you can be like, oh, that's just interesting. So I'm Ty King, and this is Karen Steward, and we have Steve. You want to introduce yourself?
Hi, I'm Steve Listopad.
Hey, Steve Listopad. How are you? Okay, good. So we're actually the ARKAST Podcast Collaborative, and what we are, we're a nonprofit organization in Arkansas, the first of its kind, to help podcasters in Arkansas. There are a few nonprofit organizations that are in Arkansas that help specifically with the arts, whether it be visual arts or painting or performance arts, but nothing for podcasting. And if we can go to the next slides there. Thank you so much. Year over year for the past 5 years, podcast listenership worldwide has increased by 20% every single year. So that's more and more. That was even before the pandemic, but after the pandemic, of course, everybody started listening to podcasts. It was an audio form of content that they can easily consume. And so podcasting itself as a platform is growing worldwide, which means us in this little state, I know many of you are not from Arkansas, but you've probably heard of Arkansas a few times, right? And it's never feel like we're a great tech push. We pushed the entire industry in America forward because we did this one thing, right? We often get left behind in the dust because we don't take advantage of opportunities, or we try to keep doing the same thing we've been doing before because it's not broken yet. And so our mission is to try to push Arkansas forward so that we don't get left behind like what happened with film and TV and radio. This is a new form of media, even though it's been around for 25 years. Arkansas itself is still getting used to it and becoming comfortable. What is this sort of media that's being put out? How do we consume it? And how can we use it to our advantage in all different areas? So if you can go to the next one, please. Thank you. So this began actually last year. In September, I needed to have a fundraiser for the Cystic Fibrosis Foundation. I was being honored as one of the finest young professionals in Central Arkansas for this thing. It's a title they give you, but in turn you have to do some profit raising for them. I'm not very good at that. I'm not good at asking you for $1 out of your pocket. So I was like, what's a good event that I could create that I would actually be passionate about, that might actually generate some funds for them and create something new for Arkansas? Every year in Austin, Texas, there is a podcast festival called RTX, and I sort of based it off of that, formed it here, gauged interest on that, and we had a huge turnout. Actually, Karen was one of my main speakers last year. If you guys were here earlier, we saw Clint Schaff, and he was from the LA Times, helping them get their Dirty Nine podcast up and running. He was also a main speaker there too. So, if you go to the next one, please. So we created it to be an annual festival that celebrates podcasters across Arkansas in every genre. Mainly the purpose is to help boost podcasting in Arkansas. Because you guys ever watched Ratatouille? How the chef always says anybody can cook. Same thing with podcasting. Podcasting is for everyone. Everybody here has their own individual life experience and something to share with somebody else. Somebody's going to take that and it's going to actually apply to their life. They're going to learn from it and they're going to enjoy it, or just feel like they share some common ground. I mean, a lot of the stories that we heard today about people who become victims of these crimes and like seeking justice, we unify for that. That's how we have a True Crime Con today. So, Karen, like I said, was one of my main speakers from last year for the Burden podcast. So she is specializing in, of course, true crime, that type of thing. You want to talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, so I have a minute on.
You want to make the words go on?
Okay, thanks. So my name is Karen Steward. I have a podcast production company based in Little Rock, and I've been doing that for about 1 year.
And so Ty found me and through Google search and asked me if I wanted to speak. And at that time, Burden, the True Crime podcast that I've been working on, was going to be released, and so I was able to talk about that. And one thing at the conference that we seem to consistently hear is, I have an idea for a podcast, I want to start a podcast, I just have no idea how. And so a lot of agency is dedicated to getting podcasters up and running. If the technology is the only thing, if you have the dedication, you're realistic about your goals, you can do this, and we're here to help.
Awesome, thank you. We'll go to the next one. So last year, we had several workshops, spread out across several dates, but mainly had the main events, where people can come in and learn the basics of podcasting. They how do I get my content? I've got a few ideas, but I'm not really sure how to put this down on paper and then record it, and what's my schedule going to be like, what kind of equipment do I need to use, and basically baffling people because like, oh, you have a phone? Everybody's got a phone, right? You can start there. You can write your script on your phone, you can, if you're just going to go off the cuff, you can just record your voice memos there. And then showing them what platforms to use to easily upload, and you can do it all for free. I mean, you already have all the equipment in your pocket. Of course, there are upgraded versions of that, and that's the goal ultimately is to be able to go into a studio and record and make a living off of this, right? So getting sponsorships, and that's sort of what we're doing is helping the local podcasters, find their audience, but also find a way to be able to do this as part-time, full-time, whatever it is, instead of just pouring their own money into it, right? And making a voice out of Arkansas. We always talk about, you should use your voice. You got a voice, use it. This is how you speak out for yourself. But like, this is literally what that is. Everybody has their own individual story, and we collected a database of all of the podcasts that are being produced in Arkansas, and we found that we have over 200, I think, right now in the database, right? Okay, that we found so far. Always continuing to find more that are being produced in Arkansas. There's a serious lack of Black voices, Asian voices, LGBTQ. It's high demand. A majority of our state's population are not represented in voice. And so we need more of those podcasts being produced. We need to hear those stories. We need to learn from each other. We need to show the rest of the country, the rest of the world, that Arkansas is more than just one specific demographic, right? And we've all lived the same story. We were born the same way, we died the same way, we lived everything in between, right? If we'll go to the next one, please. So, I'm gonna let Steve talk a little bit before I go into this, and talk about why he's excited about ABC.
And who he is.
And PSD.
Hi. Well, first of all, I want to thank True Crime Fest for having us here. And what a wonderful, eye-opening event this is. First year, just commendations all around for everybody that put this together. It's just fantastic. And I am so happy and proud to be a part of the new initiative, the Arkansas Podcast Collaborative. My name is Steward. I've been a journalism professor for 20 plus years, and I'm the current president of the Arkansas Pro Chapter of the Society of Professional Journalists based out of Little Rock. And podcasts mediums change all the time. The art of storytelling doesn't change too much, but the platforms that we tell the stories on change all the time, and they've been ever since Gutenberg and the printing press, all through tweets and Snapchats and TikTok videos. Today the monumental changes occurred as technology has evolved, and podcasts. I was at an innovation in media seminar at Arizona State University's Rivers Howard Foundation in 2013, and I had been teaching audio storytelling for about a dozen years by then, but I personally, until about 2013, I didn't realize how big podcasts had become and started to influence all of their media narratives and all of the stories that we were telling, and how much time they were taking away from traditional at that point, traditional media. And so about 2013, and moving forward, I started incorporating, taking those audio formats, stories that we were generating in class, and saying, all right, let's look at this new model. Let's look at these new ways of storytelling that are attracting a ton of listeners. And how can I, as a teacher, help the next generation of journalists and storytellers produce the same kind of content? And I'm just so happy that Karen and I have given this opportunity to help out and to continue to help new storytellers use this platform and break into this platform as best they can.
Awesome, thank you, Steve. And our board members are made up of a wide variety of people that represent Arkansas, whether it be a certain culture, but also they bring in their own resources, like Steve brings in a heavy journalism background, which really helps us there. We have people that are involved in PBS, and have their own podcasts, their own followings, in all types of areas, but I'll let Karen talk about that a little bit later. So our vision right now, I explained before, is to create a diverse culture of podcasting and push Arkansas forward in the media itself. And so how we do that, that's the more important thing. So resources of our website, arkansaspodcasters.org. We collected the very first database of all of the podcasts that are being produced in Arkansas all in one place. And as far as we can tell, no other state is even doing this. And so you turn a corner in this industry, you're first, you're trailblazing. It's hard not to be the first to do anything in this industry right now. It's kind of the Wild West. So we've got guides, coaching, sponsorship, studio time. Networking is another huge thing. So showing people how to use podcasting as a networking tool. And also our own events, our own workshops, our own annual podcast festival. We just got back from the Hot Springs Conference for the Arkansas Association for Colleges and Employers, showing them how they can use podcasting to advance their job seeking by creating a podcast about a certain industry that they want to go into, and then inviting guests on who are already working in there. People are just flattered to be invited to a podcast, Like, somebody wants to interview me, that's cool. Like, they're so excited to even be on the show. They won't check how many listeners you have. You can be brand new, and they'll be like, oh, that's great. And they're going to do self-promotion, which is free marketing for you. So that's a whole other workshop. Promoting local, which means we're promoting all of the Arkansas podcasters themselves. If you're producing a podcast in Arkansas, we want to know about it. We want to be able to push you forward so that people know about it, you get more listeners, and you're getting more networking out of other podcasters that are doing it successfully around you. And we can learn from each other and you grow together. Events. So we have our annual podcast festival, like I said, workshops, relevant events. And so we also promote any other things that are sort of, what's the word here? Like they correlate, right? So that's why we're here today, right? This sort of ties in because there's a lot of podcasters here. There's a lot of people here that are interested in podcasts. And listen, I saw it was a 12-year-old that was there last night for VIP night, and she was fangirling over somebody that had a podcast, and I was like, listen, dude, I like this, And so we're headed in a different direction. And I was like, if we go to the next slide, please. Okay, this is where Karen takes over. Because this is her area, and also autocorrect didn't correct me up top. So how do true crime podcasts can help victims? That's not correct at all. That's not English. That's not good. So I'm gonna let Karen take this part.
Okay, so tying APC back to why we're all here, obviously, is victim stories. And true crime has had a tremendous impact. Podcasting and true crime has helped solve crimes, and it's just been a way, it's been cathartic for victims, and it's just been a way to get a story out there, many stories that have been forgotten. So in the context of APC and everything we're doing, if you have a podcast that you want to start, you have an idea, and it can be any idea, but if it's victim focused and you want to do a podcast on that, we really are sincerely here to help you get up and running or give you any advice. So we are a nonprofit and we have a board, and Steve Listopad is one of those members, and he brings with him that journalism background. We're also fortunate to have somebody from KUAR, the NPR affiliate in Little Rock, somebody from Arkansas PBS, and then Clint Schaff was here earlier. He used to work at LA Times Studios doing podcasts for them, video. So we have him as a resource as well. He recently moved to Bentonville. So the state is lucky to have him, and we're lucky to have him too.
Is that you? You did? Oh, that's how you end. You just turn the lights out. But everybody just smoke jeans. Okay. Next slide, please. So True Crime podcasts that aren't being produced in Arkansas, you guys might be interested in this. They got fully dark in here now. What's going on? Should I be worried? Here we go. So of course Burden, which we have the very host of Burden right here. Karen Steward, and then United States of Murder, you guys earlier today, they were also speaking, and of course lived on his own podcast, Deep Dark Secrets. That's only 3 of just a few of them. You might not have even heard of a lot of them because the thing about podcasting is there's quite a few people that are actually doing it in Arkansas, but people are very shy about their marketing. Some are very loud and upfront. There's loud mouths like me that like to get on stage and talk to you about stuff, but then there's also people that like to I just want to record my episode, put it out there in the ether, and just hope somebody finds it someday, you know? So we're constantly finding new podcasts that are being produced and have been being produced for quite a while. And we're like, oh, you should probably add that to our database or let people know that you have this podcast so that you can boost your listenership. I also own a marketing company, so I'm really focused on pushing people out for it. If we go to the next slide, please. We'll let you guys know that we have ARKAST, our annual festival, is going to happen in September in Central Arkansas again, and one of our main speakers is going to be Listopad, who put on this very festival we're at right now. It's going to be September 7th at the Innovation Hub in North Little Rock again, but what we're doing is a little different this year. So we're going to what we call the Road to ARKAST, and we have several different events that are going to lead up into the main events. We're going to have several free events, free to the public for a full week, starting with a podcast pitch contest. We're flying down somebody who does this professionally. She judges and coaches these professionally from New York. I'm going to bring her down here and then have a live pitch event for podcasts. And then going on to other workshops from the basics, how does your business benefit from a podcast, how can you start a true crime podcast, those types of things, and going into the main one. But also, it's there's more, we have another date a couple of weeks after that, right here in Northwest Arkansas. So we're bringing it to Northwest Arkansas as well. We're talking with a couple of different events, or event centers, and trying to work out the details, and we'll let you guys know the dates there. But if you follow us at arkansaspodcasters.org, or if you go to arkastcon.com, or scan the tag, I give you options. You can keep up with this, and it'll show you all the dates, where you can buy tickets, and what are the free events, and maybe you'll find something that you can actually be interested in. If you'd like, come talk to us. We have a booth out here too. Come see us there. We've got plenty of material there to get you started. If you're interested in starting your own podcast, if you heard some of the stories today, you're like, you know what? I would like to be able to create one of these stories, or I've got an idea for it. There's plenty of these unsolved cases, right? That need to be exposed, that need to be investigated, and there's not enough podcasters to do it. So they have to be very selective in the cases that they choose, because there's just so many of them out there. Not that they're not all great, or need to be, discovered. It's just that there's only so much time and space and bandwidth, and so we need more podcasters in the state to be creating these stories. Karen, you want to close this out?
So for example, I've been talking to somebody who runs a women's shelter, women who are victims of domestic violence, and it's content like that, and just having them tell their stories that is really helpful. So podcasts don't have to be complicated. You don't have to write a long script, but everybody has a story, and it's worth getting out there. And I don't think we talked about it, but we have a podcast for ARKAST, the ARKAST podcast. So ARKAST is the festival that happens once a year. The ARKAST podcast is a monthly podcast. It's year-round, and we interview one Arkansas podcaster of all genres. So if you have a podcast and you want us to promote you and get the word out there, and you are from Arkansas, absolutely contact us, the ARKAST podcast, and we would love to speak to you about what you're doing.
Have we interviewed anybody here?
No, I don't think so.
Yes, we have. LaDonna Humphrey. We have an episode out with her right now, just recently. I forgot. Okay. Great. Were you there? Are you in Boston? The lights turned down this time. And then you got replaced with something else. Okay. So we have an episode with LaDonna. We also have an episode with the United States of Murder, where we talk to them about how they started their own content and how they chase the stories that they do, how they select the ones for each state, and then how they put it together, the recording. So if you're interested in like behind the scenes, inside baseball type of stuff, and then you can start your own podcast, you can listen to that there. That'd be great. So we have time to open it up for.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, great. I talk really fast, so I'm sure we're like miles ahead already. Yes, please.
As the journalists are held accountable for what they put out there, aren't they? How is that happening with podcasters, or is it not?
That is a great question, and typically how journalists are held accountable is by the industry itself, and so now I don't want to speak about something that I'm not fully aware of, but podcasting is still relatively young, and a lot of it, because of the nature of technology, I mean, a lot of it individuals are doing it themselves out of their own homes, and we're working with small boutique firms, things like that. The journalism industry writ large, the newspaper industry, the broadcasting industry, those are giant industries that have established ethical standards over the past century, and so I think that's a great question going forward. How does the podcasting genre turn into a ethically based profession and that matches current that matures into that type of industry.
Yeah. And another issue has been plagiarism in podcasting. People take someone else's work, and there have been lawsuits over that, but you have reporters who are hard at work doing investigative work, and then it turns into a short podcast episode for some other thing. So I think that's another thing we have to talk about, but definitely the ethics of podcasting is really important. If anyone can put anything out there with a category like true crime, that can be dangerous if you put misinformation out there. So there indeed have to be rules, but I think this is an industry that is lacking in rules, and this is going to be something we need to talk about going forward. Absolutely.
Along the same line, someone, a earlier presenter talking about writing a book, suggested defamation insurance.
Yeah.
Would this be something that maybe podcasters would need to look at?
Yes, I would say absolutely. And also you can form, like for Burden My Podcast, I have an LLC, so that if someone has a problem with my podcast, they don't take all of my business's money. But it is absolutely, I would absolutely recommend that, yes.
Anybody else? Any questions?
Yeah.
Awesome.
Okay, well, thank you. The website again is arkansaspodcasters.org. We want to hear from you. We hope that you can pencil us in for September, whether you're in Central Arkansas and it's the beginning of September, or Northwest Arkansas and it's the third week of September. We really hope to see you there. We want to see the podcasting industry grow, and we're here for you if you need us.